Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs with Valor Ridge, and the purpose of today's video is to help you make a well-informed decision about whether or not a pistol with a manual safety is the best one for you, regardless of your experience level. This is a question that I get all the time by a lot of students and people in general. They'll ask, what do you think about a pistol that has a manual safety on it? What do you think about guns that don't? And on and on and on down the rabbit hole we go. So the whole point of this video is to make it short and concise, and it brings some things to light with you, not only historically, but practically. Before we begin our historiography of why safeties are on pistols to begin with, let me explain something to all you shooters out there and people that are just getting into shooting as well. Your primary safety is your muzzle control. As long as your muzzle is in a direction or in a location that isn't crossing something you do not want to kill, destroy, or buy, you're going to be fine. Additionally, your other safety is your trigger finger. So as long as your trigger finger is not on there and your muzzle is in a direction that is not in a place where it's going to hurt, kill, or destroy something, you're going to be fine. Those are your two primary safeties, and basically everything after that doesn't really matter for that much. But I just wanted to caveat that at the beginning because a lot of people, I'm sure, will chime in with their sage advice about this stuff. So let's be sure that we get that out of the way right now. In the past, safeties were on pistols, especially those early semi-automatic pistols, and by early semi-automatic pistols I mean turn of the century or in the early part of the 20th century. These pistols were predominantly single action, especially the 1911, although there are other pistols as well that are also semi-automatic, but the safeties were added to these guns in their first half of the 20th century because they were light single action pistols. What is single action? Single action is when you press the trigger, it simply moves the hammer forward or allows the hammer to fall forward. That's all single action means. So if you think about these designs of these guns, these Browning high powers, the Colt 1911, the predominant semi-automatic pistols of the first half of the 20th century, you needed a safety for that pistol because the trigger was extremely light. We're talking at definitely under 5 pounds of pressure that would release that hammer. So manual safeties were added for that very reason. In the second half of the 20th century, you had types of pistols that were called double action / single action, which means when you press the trigger for the first time, the first shot would be double action, which means it moves the hammer back and then snaps it forward, all with one trigger press. So your first shot would be a very heavy trigger press, usually between 12 and 14 pounds, although that's not a hard and fast number. That's generally what I found them to be. And after that, every subsequent shot after that would be in single action, which means the hammer would remain to the rear after the first shot, so you have a much lighter trigger press. The main function of safeties on these pistols was to carry the pistol decocked with the safety off. Take a Beretta 92 FS for example. That pistol is designed to be carried hammer down, decocked with the safety off. When I was in the military, that was my primary sidearm. That's how we carried it. Hammer down, safety off, ready. So the next time we would point that gun, aim it at somebody that needed to be shot, and we press the trigger, that means we could fire the gun without screwing with a safety. Think about another pistol, SIG 226. That's another double action, single action. And that gun doesn't even have a safety on it. What it does have is a decocker, so that when you load the pistol, the hammer stays back, you hit the decocker, and it falls forward. In all seriousness, there's plenty of other pistols out there that are double action, single action. Think an H&K USP series of guns. That also has a decocker or a safety as well. And that gun is designed to be carried hammer down with the decocked and the safety off, so that when you press the trigger, that's what it would do. When you press the trigger, the gun will go off. That was predominantly what those guns were designed to do. After the double action, single action pistols came out, especially in the 1980s and 90s, you had what were known as striker fired pistols. Now these are pistols that do not have hammers. These are these are definitely an evolution forward in pistols. We have guns that don't have those hammers on them or an external hammer at all. They have what are known as strikers. And I want you to think of a striker almost like a pinball machine. You know, when you start the pinball, you pull it back and then let it go and it shoots the pinball forward. That's what a striker is. And you have all these companies that came out with striker fired pistols. Now when they first came out, they didn't, and they still don't, have a manual safety on them. So a lot of people were freaking out, oh, these pistols didn't have a manual safety, oh, they're unsafe. Oh, yeah, obviously they're very unsafe. They're so unsafe that it is the predominant firearm in law enforcement. It's the predominant firearm in federal law enforcement. And now we're even starting to see it move into the military. That's right. The Navy, especially Special Operations, has adopted the striker fired type pistol, and the Army is looking to do so as well. So they're really not unsafe, considering that they are not only the most popular in law enforcement as well as a federal level, but with concealed carriers as well. They are definitely one of the most popular pistols, and they're used to great effect every day. Another point I'd like to address about these guns not having a manual safety is that revolvers never had any manual safeties on them. People carried revolvers for over 100 years. There's no manual safety on a revolver. You loaded it, and when you pressed the trigger, it would fire the pistol. That's the way the pistol was designed to work, and that's the way it did work for over at least 100 years. Pistols never used to have safeties on them, folks. It's only in the recent last century where people decided to add safeties on it. And I'd like to address, is that the best type of gun for you for self-defense? Is a gun with a safety such? Well, let's address some of this. Adding another toggle to your pistol does not make it safer. All it does is add one more hoop for you to jump through when it's time to protect your life. The gun already has a few controls. It already has the slide lock. It already has the magazine release. It already has the trigger. Why would you add 25% more choices than you already have? When it's time to defend yourself, you literally need to point and click that gun onto somebody until they leave you alone. Adding another safety is a big time problem. And I don't care what your experience level is, all you operators out there. I have seen people with decades of experience, that's right, decades of real world professional experience with guns with safeties on them, forget to take the safety off on the range. That's right, on the range, minus the stress of deadly force. And these are guys that have been doing it for decades, longer than a lot of you have probably been alive, and they still forget to take the safety off. So my point is this: is a safety on a pistol best suited for you? Or could we leave that safety off the pistol, or at least choose a pistol that does not have a manual safety on it? Is it less safe? Absolutely not. It is not less safe. This is one of your safeties, and your muzzle is one of your safeties. And as long as you've got those things figured out, you're going to be just fine. You need to be deliberate, you need to be cautious, and you need to be absolutely competent when it comes to handling your firearm. That does not come through buttons. Now, I know some of you out there will make the argument, oh, well, all these people can be highly trained to push buttons under stress. Think about, old dog fighters. Think about all the people in jets and all this. Hey, listen, we're too close to missiles. We're switching to guns. That's what we're doing here. We're not talking about shooting somebody 25 miles away with a computer-guided missile. We're talking about shooting them face-to-face with supersonic chunk of metal, you 45 guys, subsonic. Either way, it's going to hurt, and you need to be aware of that. Your muzzle and your trigger finger are your safeties. Adding another one onto the pistol does not serve you best, and it probably won't serve the overwhelming majority of you. Be very careful about people that say a safety on a pistol makes the gun more safe. If you found the information in the video helpful, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Facebook. That link is down below. And if you want to learn how to use your pistol effectively, come on out to Valor Ridge and we'll teach you how to do just that, even with those manual safeties. This is Reid Henrichs at Valor Ridge reminding you, the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.